In this video help, I'm going to be covering the purchase order input screen. The first step in using this is to create a new record by clicking the New Record button. I've already done the first one, so I'm sitting in here with purchase ID number 1. The next thing you're going to do is to go ahead and click in and put the date of the invoice. In this particular case, today is 27, but I'm going to go ahead and say that it was actually originated on the 26th. And I'm going to be placing the purchase order on the 27th, meaning I'm actually going to call the vendor and place the order. The next thing I need to do is to go ahead and add the vendor, and let's explain how that works. There is a vendor screen and a vendor list. The vendor list is where you create all the vendors that you're going to be adding to your inventory system and your purchase order system. Let's go ahead and look at one. Let's go to Keller, and you can see that Keller's got this information in it right now. We needed some additional information for the sales phone and shopping phone that need to be added. Let's go back to the purchase list view again, and now we're in the list view for the purchase orders. This is the first one that was actually added to the database, and you can see that when I pick the vendor, I see the purchase ID, I see the receive date, the PO order amount, and then when it's all completed, when I click the checkbox in the actual purchase order, this one right here, it'll show that I've cleared all the items that have been received, and there should be no balances due in this. So let's go ahead and pick Keller, just for an example, and it'll automatically fill in the information for that vendor. And the next thing it will do is it'll place the actual PO date, and in this case I put it in the 27th. The next thing you would add is the ordered by, whoever the person is that ordered it. The receive date is the actual time that you received the shipment, and you're clearing the items to make sure that they have been invoiced properly and received properly. If you're talking to the vendor on the day that you're placing the order and you have any changes that have to be done on the order form itself, you can go ahead and alter the form based on the quantities that are available and whatever. Now, if you actually receive the items and say either you're short shipped for one reason or another, or you have broken items, what you want to do is put the date and then request an RMA, put the RMA number, and then indicate in the text field up here for this particular purchase order, because this is the only thing for this record, is make sure that you document if you were short shipped or had broken items and placing the RMAs for them being replaced. The next thing you want to do is, if you have missing information, at the same time you can get the vendor to give you the sales phone and shipping phone. Now, what I would suggest you do is create an inventory item called shipping. And with shipping, it'll be just for the purchase order itself. And if there's a cost for the entire quantity of items, then you would put it in the shipping field for the cost of the shipping. If you have any other items that would be added to an invoice or a purchase order where you need to add those kind of items like a return or an RMA, I would put those in there so that you can track things like an RMA that are put against a purchase order to show what has been short shipped and so forth. When you put an RMA in, you're just flagging the purchase order that there is an issue and you need to fix it before you can balance out the actual receipted items. So let's go ahead and add now the actual line items. And you'll notice it down here in the bottom, there's a sum of the quantity amount, which is the sum of the purchase order, and the sum of the order balance. So anytime there's a balance when we get ready to receive items, obviously we'd see a count there. And if we're ordering items for the entire amount of all the items, it'll sum the amount until they've all been reduced to 0. Now, one of the things we can do on this particular product ID when we're selecting it is we look for the item and click on it, or what we can do is do a fast method, which is a automatic fill. Say, for example, if I put K-8 in, you'll see that it's going to reduce the list down to the items that are available that I want to actually put in. And I'm choosing the graphics display, and I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put the order date in as the 27th. That's information that is needed for the product report for orders. I'm going to put a quantity of 5 in there. I'm going to put an order cost. Now, where does the order cost come from? If you're doing the initial purchase order and it's never been done before and you're adding items for the cost, you would go ahead and add your vendor cost and then go over to the purchase order inventory system, which is the inventory for the equipment, and figure out your margin and put your standard price in it that you're going to be selling it for. In some cases, you might actually put a 0 in there if the item is a gratis type of an item that is given for service or support. So I would put in this case, let's say that this display is $130 at the purchase cost, and that's cost. If I'm buying 5, it's going to calculate the actual subtotal. And then if I add shipping, I could add it on another line. It's going to go ahead and add the shipping into it, or I can put it in as an individual shipping item. It's your option to put it in here or put it in a separate line for a shipping item. In this case, I'm saying now that I received the actual shipment and I want to put the items in. I put in the receive date, and then I would go ahead and put in the 5, which would show the items were received and the balance is now 0. And you can see that it zeroes down at the bottom and it puts the actual amount of the purchase order in here for the full amount of payment. Now, obviously, when you check on the shipment, you would probably put notes on here as far as the receiving to show that it is completed. And if it is completed, you can go ahead and click this checkbox, which automatically says that you've finished this invoice out. So now if I go back to the purchase list view, I would see that the purchase list view shows that the balance and everything and the quantity and the date of received. Of course, I could put the date of received, and let's say it was the 29th, just to have something in there. And then show the completion, because when I got the manifest, I checked everything off and it was all done. So if I go back to the purchase order, you can see that everything is done, including the receipt, and the balance is 0. This is an example of what you would do. Of course, you could add as many items as you want to the purchase order for the particular vendor that you're working with at that time. The only thing I think we haven't covered at this point is the vendor list. Let's go ahead and look at that in detail. You can use a find in here if you say, for example, you have a full screen of all vendors and you don't see the one you're looking for. You can scroll from the side to see the next one, or you can just do a quick find and put in the name of the particular vendor and then hit the perform find. It'll bring that record up. Make sure that if you come back to the screen, just so you know, if you only see one or a small number of vendors and you know there's more, just click on the show all, and what it'll do is it'll bring all the items back. These are called the record and selection. If you'd done a find, the current record and selection would only show the few. When you click this, it would bring back all the records. If you have any questions, as usual, you can always call me or go to the support site and chat with us online. Thank you.